was staying at my grandma's house one weekend while she went to Florida with some of her church friends. I was sleeping in the guest bedroom next to her room. The guest bedroom always had the twin beds inside of it that my brother and I would sleep in when we had sleepovers at her house. I took the bed next to the window, but before getting into bed, I checked all the doors, making sure they were locked. When I did get into bed, it was early and I didn't actually go to sleep for a while. There wasn't much to do at my grandma's house. I was just on my phone for an hour to watching videos, texting people. Whatever. That's when I thought I could start hearing someone's voice outside. It sounded like a woman's voice, saying, "Hello." I left the bedroom and inched my way closer to the front door, moving slow, because I was trying to listen. It was a woman's voice, just going hello like every 10 seconds. As I got closer to the front door, I realized that's where it seemed to be coming from, my grandma's door. The windows in her dining room gave a clear view of the front porch, so I went over to that window to attempt to get a view of who was out there. I tried peeking my head in between the plastic blinds without making it obvious, but I guess I didn't do a good job of that, because when I looked, I did see a woman on my grandma's stoop, and she was looking right at me as if she knew I was going to be looking through those blinds. Once again, she said hello with some freakish smile on her face. This woman was older, but don't picture her as some innocent-looking small old lady. She looked like she was maybe late 50s or early 60s, and something about her face just skeeved me out. I moved away from the window and thought maybe it was one of my grandma's friends. It was midnight, though. So, why would anyone come to the door thusly? Why wouldn't she knock or ring the bell? Why was she just standing out there, going hello over and over? I was genuinely unsettled. I just went back to the guest bedroom and shut the door. Now with the door shut as opposed to before, and I couldn't hear that woman anymore. Maybe she just decided to leave. I started texting everyone about it, my sisters, my friends, telling them how bizarre it was. But a good amount of time passed in silence, and I was starting to calm down. My sisters were telling me to call Grandma, but there was a 0% chance she was awake, and she barely ever even checked her cell phone anyway. Just like that, something broke the silence. A banging at the window, not a knocking or tapping. Banging. I felt that fierce pain in my chest area as my body entered that flight mode. Shortly after the banging stops, I heard that familiar voice say hello with that boost of adrenaline. I guess I had the extra confidence to grab the blinds and push it up there. I was face to face with his horrifying older lady with only a thin layer of glass between us. I screamed at her smiling gross face, "I'm calling the cops." I pulled the blind back down and ran back outside to the living room. I looked around the house and then ran upstairs to box myself into the upstairs guest bedroom. I didn't want to actually call the cops. I don't know why I wanted to just wait it out. I crawled into the bed in the upstairs guest bedroom and tucked myself under the covers. A couple of hours later, I was still awake, and I finally, only then, went back downstairs to look outside. Each window, that freaky old lady seemed to be gone. The next morning, I called my grandma and told her what happened. She started yelling into the phone, clearly panicking and distressed. She told me how a few days earlier she was being watched in the grocery store by some woman about 10 years younger than her who just kept smiling at her for no reason. I told her to calm down. I didn't entirely know whether to correlate the two or not, but when we eventually got off the phone with each other, I did have to give it a second thought. My grandma is 75. She has lost a bit of her wits, so I do have to take some of the things she says with a grain of salt. But the way she yelled into the phone about the woman in the store really gave me the chills. I still wonder if it could have been the same person. This took place more than 18 years ago, but I still remember it clearly. My son was born early, at 33 weeks. We were fortunate because he didn't have many problems, and we were able to bring him home a month later. He needed oxygen and caffeine for his slow heartbeat, but after we got home, strange things started happening. Our cat wouldn't go into his room, even though before he was born, I was always taking the cat out of there. Our dog would sit at the bottom of the stairs and tilt his head, like he was listening to something. Sometimes, while I was changing my son's diaper, I would start talking, thinking his dad had come into the room, but when I turned around, I realized I was alone. A friend gave my son a peekaboo big bird toy that would say, "Peekaboo," when you covered and uncovered its eyes. The toy would go off by itself all the time, even after I put it in a box in the closet. I often felt like I wasn't alone in the house. My parents had given us a baby monitor called Angel Care as a gift. The monitor had a pad that we put under the mattress, and it would set off an alarm if it didn't feel any movement after a certain time. Since our son was very small, only 5 pounds, when he came home the alarm would often go off. I would wake up, go into his room to turn off the alarm, and check on him. He was always fine. I never thought the alarm was going off for any reason other than my son being so tiny that the pad couldn't detect his breathing. During this time, I often had dreams about a woman in his room. I never saw her clearly, just the shadow of a woman with long hair standing and reaching into his crib. I don't remember exactly how long my son had been home, but it was at least a month. He was still on oxygen and taking caffeine. In our bedroom, our bed was to the left of the door. Then one night, I was asleep and woke up because someone was shaking me roughly on the side of the bed near the door. I woke up and looked at my husband, asking him why he was shaking me, only to realize he was completely asleep, and on the wrong side of the bed to have done it. I quickly got up and ran to my son's room. I turned on the light, something I had never done before, and heard a gasp coming from the crib. Sometimes, when babies suddenly stop breathing, you just need to startle them to make them start again. I really believe that my son had stopped breathing, and turning on the light made him breathe again. After that, the strange dreams, the pets acting weird, and the toy going off by itself kept happening until my son no longer needed oxygen and caffeine. Then it all stopped. The pets stopped acting weird, and the big bird toy never went off by itself again. I truly believe that someone came home with him to keep him safe. From my dreams, I felt it was a young woman, maybe in her 20s and indigenous, since I'm Canadian. I'll always be grateful for her watching over him and shaking me awake that night so I could startle my son into breathing again. It happened when I was 9 years old. My mom left me and my brother home alone one afternoon. My brother was around 12 or 13. I was watching him play Xbox in our living room. He had his headset on and was talking to his friends. Then there was a knock on the door in our carport. I ran to answer the door without checking first. It was a grown man I had never seen before. The only thing between us was the screen door, which wasn't locked. He asked, "Are your parents home?" I felt scared right away. It was strange that he was knocking on the carport door. Strangers usually knock on the front door. Plus, our carport was empty, and we only had one car, and my mom had taken it. So this man already knew that my parents weren't home. I felt afraid, though I didn't know why. My brother, who was in the other room, came to my mind right away. I've never had a father figure, but my brother has always been the one who made me feel safe, the strongest person in the whole world, someone who could protect me no matter what. With wide eyes, I managed to stutter, "No, but my, big brother is here." Without missing a beat, the man reached for the screen door and started to open it. But just then, as if by some miracle, an arm reached out from behind me, over my shoulder, and grabbed the door. My brother pushed past me, holding the door and forcing the man back with his presence. He stepped out into the carport and closed the door behind him. Then the man told my brother he was interested in buying an old swing set we had in our front yard. My brother said he was not interested in selling it. Then he came back inside without saying a word to me, put his headset back on, and continued playing. I sat down and kept watching him. The memory mostly faded away, but as I got older, I realized it was one of the scariest things that ever happened to me. It's creepy not because of what actually happened, but because of what could have happened. It's unsettling to think about how unaware we were. I like to imagine the man was just planning to lock me in a room, rob the house, and leave. But deep down, I know it could have been so much worse.